committed to obviously taking Unfiltered to the next level, and we know that that starts with all of you. When this opportunity came about with this training, we were just so excited to get it in front of you and present it to you. We are actually very lucky to have someone with a wealth of knowledge and experience on growing and inspiring winning teams to actually share his knowledge with our team personally. Some of you probably know him already as a loyal Unfiltered client, or maybe even the unofficial heartthrob of the spa. He's actually Jeff.
Yeah, come on.
He's in the running.
It could be a team.
He's here today to lead this training that he personally created for our team. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce Hayden Schaap, and he is going to do what Hayden does best. So I'll let you take the floor.
Well, yeah, you guys can all judge that by the end. So just everyone lower expectations and settle in, and we'll have a good time. I think one of the reasons why Crystal wanted me to come give this training is because my previous job, I was a senior partner. I took a job during college to go be a partner with them and decided to drop out of school. And they were a pretty small company at the time. I helped them grow decently big, but one of the ways that we did that was by developing a personal development program for the sales program. We took this employee approach, like making it the best opportunity for employees to develop themselves personally, and sales was kind of an afterthought. And what happened was our sales just went through the roof, and we applied this across the entire business. We applied it in operations, we applied it with technicians, we applied it with people going to homes to do inspections. This type of approach to employee development or to investing in the employees that actually do the work and get customers results seemed to work really well. I wanted to really tailor this training to you guys. The only thing I've done in my career is sales coaching. I was a sales executive for 12 years. How do you start by hating something and then becoming really good at it? Or if you're moderately good at it, or you kind of like it, or it's just a hobby, how do you take that from I just do this because I do it because it's a way to make money or because of other reasons that I have, and go all into it so that you become known as the best at it? And there's a real path there with specific things that you can do to become that. What we can do is map this onto every other role in your life. I've found that the better you are at one thing, the better you can be at all things. Okay, here's why I hated sales and why you should too. Everybody hates sales. Why is this? Why do you guys think people hate sales so much?
Awkward.
It's awkward. Yeah. You don't want to be pushy. Okay, so why don't you want to be pushy? Why, general you, right? Why don't we want to be pushy with people usually?
Uncomfortable, like if socially, like if people are not wanting what you're getting and you're feeling like I have to convince this person,
yeah,
or like I have to make them do a certain thing.
Yep. Making people uncomfortable, and you kind of need their business in the future too. So if you make them uncomfortable now, maybe they don't want to work with you in business later, or they want to be a client later.
I'm gonna be completely honest too. Sometimes it's because you don't think it's authentic. I know there's been times when I don't really have buy-in on a service, and it was really hard for me to push that month.
Yeah. So it pushes your own integrity to kind of its breaking point, where you're like, if I go any further with this, I might not be honest maybe. I started my career hating sales. I was doing it to pay for school, and that was literally it. And my goal was to make enough money to pay for school, and I sucked so bad at it that I did not, I barely made enough for school and had to keep doing it. Kimmy's done, so this is how it was for me. But I'm a stubborn little guy, so one of my business partners, he recently gave a presentation in front of a bunch of people, and I was in the audience, and he's like, you know why Hayden's better at his job than everyone here? It's because he hates losing more than you guys do. And that's me. I was so stubborn about like being so bad at this job that I thought like this pushed me to the brink of my capabilities and my mental, I don't know, emotional awareness. It pushed me to the absolute brink. I need to get good at this. So the next year I came out, I did it again, was only like this much better. Probably failed more actually, but was barely as good as I was the year before, so I had to do it one more time. And I thought, what's the problem with me? I can only so much say it's a customer's fault, or it's the little market that I'm working in, or people don't need it, or I just don't believe in my product. And like, at what point are these my goals and not everyone else kind of using me to get their own goals? I realized that there is this thing happening to me called role ambiguity. Which role ambiguity, what this means is you think your role is one thing, but it's actually a different thing. And so if I'm in sales and I don't want to be a salesman, my resistance to being a salesman will kick me out of my actual role, and it will make me not effective because I'm like hardly ever working within that role of being a sales rep. So instead of selling someone something or learning how to get good at it, what I'm actually doing is just trying not to make them feel uncomfortable and then hoping that they say yes to me and then being upset when they don't. For me, this was a huge problem, and I realized that that was my main source of pain and of lack of production was my role ambiguity, me not wanting to be the thing that I actually was. So I was choosing to go do a job that I didn't want to do, knowing that I didn't want to do it, and then pretending that it was everyone else's fault. That doesn't sound very good. It wasn't. So I decided, like, all right, so I'm just going to accept that I'm a salesman, and I'm going to be the absolute best salesman. There's no one will beat me at this. And that wasn't true for individual sales, but in our industry that I just previously worked in, I don't know anyone that has outproduced what we did. My biggest team that I had was about 500 people, and per person, plus the value that it added to the business, is more than anyone that I know. That all stemmed as a result of deciding that I was going to be the thing that I already had chosen to be. That's what I want to talk about for the rest of this little meeting, is the sneaky, subtle cost of role ambiguity. Basically, this is a definition I made up, but it works for our purposes today. Role ambiguity basically is the exact amount of not wanting to be the thing you already chose to be. It's lack of clarity of expectations, incentives, and required skills in one's role that leads to inefficiency in production and ineffectiveness in relationships with clients, team, and family. So if you are behaving in a way that's inefficient so that you're not using your resources correctly, maybe you're not using your skills that you have in your role, or you're not using the money and incentives that are already provided to you, maybe you underutilize a tool that you have in the business. All of that is wasted energy that could be used to produce more and get clients better results, which is the reason why you maybe already chose the job. But because of role ambiguity, it creates inefficiency and ineffectiveness. And that's ultimately why it's important. You can look at an employee, like all of you guys in your jobs, me and my roles. I produce results, but I'm also a results producer. So I am an asset in some way. In my marriage produces results of some sort. That doesn't mean money. That means love. It means feeling of safety. It means whatever that result actually is. Every role that we have in life produces a result, but it also has an asset that produces that result. So the asset is me and my wife and my marriage. The asset, me as a father, is me and my kids. If I don't have those kids, then I'm not actually a father. So that you have to have two people in that relationship at least. And then there's an ideal result that that relationship produces. Think about you guys and your clients. What's the ideal result that you produce for your clients? Let's just name a couple of things. Yeah.
Or just like, happiness with their appearance.
Okay. Happiness with their appearance. Great.
Making them feel better about themselves.
Okay. It's a sense of self-worth. Self-confidence. Anything else?
Your skin.
Yeah, so we can get very specific with these results, or we can get very broad, general, right? Usually the specific results lead to the broad feelings about those results. But who produces those results for clients? Is it just you? If it's just you doing the work, so let's say you give me a facial and then I never wear sunscreen, which I don't, I'm sorry. So don't.
I know you don't.
I've come to terms.
If I don't wear sunscreen,
I've just come to terms. You're gonna listen.
yeah, exactly. If I don't wear sunscreen, then I'm dragging that asset down, right? But you and I are the relationship in my results, and I'm dragging down those results because of my ineffectiveness.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's okay. Yeah, I'll still be back. Is this making sense so far? So you have to think about you and your clients as they are doing something and you are doing something. Without either of you, you can't produce results. So what we want to look at with role ambiguity is that there's a significant cost to role ambiguity, okay? So I just want you to think, we're going to do a random example and just try to put yourself in this example. So let's say that you have a goal this quarter of producing 400 results. Results are just kind of nebulous, you choose whatever you want them to be. Your goal is to make 400 results, but what you actually do is about 270 results. What's the cost of not hitting your goal? If you could put it into a number, what would the cost of not hitting your goal be? Yeah, about 150. This is 270, it's 130 technically, but this is unclear. This is ambiguous, okay? So if this is a result of role ambiguity, the cost of my role ambiguity this quarter is 130 results. Because I could have produced 400, but I only did 270, okay? So my cost of role ambiguity right now is 130. But if I don't make a change, then what happens? I keep in my role ambiguity. Next year, this white one is if we would have kept producing at the level, like if we really knew what our role was and we went all into it. Let's say now I'm getting much better. Maybe I'm leading a couple people in my team. I could have produced 1,200 results. But because I never leveled up to my role ambiguity, if I never fixed my role ambiguity, I actually only produced about 350 results. So now what's the cost of my role ambiguity in quarter two? It's huge. It's way more, right? Yeah, a lot.
Been on that one.
We won't do math in front of people because that's where I embarrass myself the most. Okay, so let's say we keep going on this trend. In quarter 3, had I hit my goal here, I would have made another goal and it would have been about 2,300 results. But instead, I'm down here in role ambiguity and I only produce about 500 results. What's the cost of my role ambiguity?
I know the answer to that one. 2,000.
About 2,000. Less than 2,000, but see, we won't do math in public because that's a bad deal.
It is.
But you can see that if I continue in my role ambiguity, I continue to underperform per my ideal self, right? So you can just see the trend here. And this is an actual case study I did at my last job where I looked at, because role ambiguity is an actual technical term in, I don't even know what necessarily the field is, but you can look at and do the math on this. And I found that to be absolutely true with employees. If they have role ambiguity, they will underperform 100% of the time. As soon as they step into their roles, automatically you see performance increase. Quarter 4, they could have done 4,200 or so results, but instead they only did about 600 results. The role ambiguity just grows and grows and grows. It's huge, right? So this is ultimately what it looks like. This red little part of the graph here, that's the cost of me not knowing, leaning into, going all into my role. That's the cost of me resisting what I could actually do or produce for clients. But what's really crazy about this is like, this cost actually starts only right here when it looks this small. So the further out you draw role ambiguity into the future, it just becomes a massive cost. And you can think about this in your own lives. What's crazy about this though is this is the cost of role ambiguity in your role at work. But we have, how many roles do you have? You can put on your different hats. Is your work role the only thing that we resist? No. How many people do you know that don't go all into just insert anything there, right? What is the cost of your own role ambiguity? Because if you have a cost of role ambiguity in your work, you very likely have a similar cost in all the other roles of your life. Because we have a hard time separating these things in our mind. You can't really fracture yourself across roles. You're the same person in every single one of them. This is where this gets really productive for just being a better person too, is thinking about, if I don't go all into my role at work, how am I going to go all into my roles and other things too? So I want you guys to think about that. What's the cost of your role ambiguity in your family, with friends, faith, community? What about in your income? How much does that actually cost you? What about in your health? What about in your relationships? What about in your expertise or your mind? How proud you are of what you bring to work every day because of how well you work on it, your meaningful influence or the thing that you leave behind after you're gone. All of that has a cost to us simply because of not wanting to be the things that we already are. If the cost is so big, the solution must be really big too then, right? Not really. They say the doors of history swing on small hinges. Have you ever heard that? It's like, that's one of these things. How do you correct role ambiguity, correcting this massive cost? It's very easy to correct, actually. The solution is, it's self-awareness, essentially. It's being able to take a hard look at yourself and say, okay, I'm going to inventory myself and just do a hard assessment of like, how do I show up in all of my roles and where am I misaligned from what I think my role should be versus what it actually is, or what the ideal version of it is. I like philosophy, so I use weird terms like know thyself. First, we want to know what we have that we bring to the table, what we are in our role, and then you want to own it. It's one thing to know it, it's another thing to totally own it. You can look at this like a computer. What's the most powerful computer that you know of? We use a Mac Studio in our business, which is also known as my house. And if I just use Microsoft Word and type in anything on this Mac Studio, but it's capable of editing like cinema grade movies, I'm underutilizing that hardware completely, right? So one, I shouldn't pay as much for a thing because I don't need it. But what if I don't know that it's that capable of doing something like that high performance? First, I need to inventory it and say, like, what is this thing actually capable of? This is what we have to do with ourselves. Like, what am I actually capable of? What do I bring to the table? So that's know thyself. And then it's own it and say, okay, now that I know I have these things, I can't perform at my best if I don't own them, if I don't go all into my role. This is kind of what the model looks like, all right? This triangle represents you and how you think your role is. And then this one represents the ideal version of your role. Typically in our roles in life, we only have a little bit of crossover between what the ideal role actually is and what we're actually thinking or doing in that role. This red triangle, the crossover, you can only be that effective. So there's all this space that is wasted because you're not as effective in your role in helping clients or and helping your family and helping whoever else get the results of their life. So what do we do about this? Well, you can, a couple things. The first one is alignment. Kimmy said, use the word alignment. So we need to align our role. First, understand like what is the absolute ideal version of that role. So let's talk about this specifically for you guys in your jobs. What does just absolute excellence look like in your jobs, in your specific roles? Maybe there's someone in the industry that you really admire. Maybe you're that person. What does it look like? Do you have any ideas on this, Crystal?
Which role?
Any of them. Pick one of them and we'll use that as an example.
Okay. My role is to produce results through like aesthetics. So first of all, it is taking what the client says they want, translating that into what procedures are going to get that result, regardless of if it's what they come in and say they want. I have to know how to get them there and the difference, and then providing that and providing it in a way that they can actually consume it, whether that's all now or we do a treatment plan, and checking in along the way, making sure that we are on the right path and saying, is this what you meant? Is this, are we getting there, right? Altering if needed.
Okay.
Until we get to the final result where they hold that mirror up and they have a tear coming down their cheek and they are so glad that I've changed their life.
There you go.
Right?
Okay, so talk to me about what's required to achieve that result. In you, if you miss a skill or you're lacking in an attribute of some sort or maybe experience, talk to me about what's required for you to have built into you the ability to achieve that result.
If you aren't able to translate what the client or the patient is saying, like they aren't an expert, they don't know how Botox works or fillers work. If you can't translate that into the tools that you have and pick the right tool for the job, they're not going to be happy. They're going to walk out with something different. Then they're going to go, this isn't what I told them I wanted. And they're not going to come back.
Okay, so first you have to have some ability, like some EQ, some emotional intelligence to say, I know they're saying this thing, I need to verify if it's what they actually want. So there's like a communication or translation of what the person is saying. And then you have, I'm hearing you say something like, then I need to understand how my tool set best achieves that result once I understand the result that they're actually talking about. Then I need to be able to, even like visually, like one of my eyes is really jacked up. I couldn't do your guys' job.
I didn't do it.
One of my eyes is really bad. So I frankly couldn't do the job. It's very hard for me to see symmetries because of how messed up my right eye is. It's like shut down. So it doesn't actually see the way it's supposed to. So that would be a piece of my hardware that would not serve me very well in this job, right? But there's all sorts of things that you can list out. It's like, what does excellence really look like in achieving a result for a client? And you could list out what that hardware is required to have for you to actually run it well, to do it well, to work with a client and get them ideal results. First is aligning the role. And when you find that you align and go all into your role and you define what excellence looks like in that specific role, you usually will find that you're lacking things. So there will be these gaps, the space that if you fill it in, it would actually allow you to really lean into just getting clients and customers the absolute best results. So this is all room for growth. It's room for skills, expertise development, and that's what we're all about. So if you grow your expertise, if you grow your skills, if you grow your inventory of yourself, your hardware, that's what allows you to best serve customers, best serve clients at the highest level. Yeah, please.
So if you're trying to see, like, maybe you don't have a sense, you're trying to identify what that excellence is in these different subcategories of the parts of this role.
Yeah.
How do you, I guess, hone in on it's this?
Well, because we only live in our own bubble, right? And so to the extent that you can look at someone on social media and the results that they get, maybe you'll know what excellence could look like. But if you're not with that person getting the excellent results every day, you really won't ever know exactly what that is. So it's hard to picture this outside of yourself. What I would do is I would start by saying, do I have any like heroes in the industry that are operating at the level that I think is just absolutely excellent? Our minds typically need precedent. It typically needs like an example for us to believe that something is possible. But this is the worst way to do this, actually. The best way to look at what excellence in my role looks like is to look at the results that you're actually getting customers, clients, and say, if I were to give them 10 times, 100 times better results, what would that actually look like? So you want to kick yourself out of your own belief systems. Because right now you think it's like, well, I'm doing good enough, the business is doing well, and it's okay, and we're pretty good at helping people. But if you're never thinking about what you could do differently, all of the stuff that might be truly excellent is just always off limits. This is actually what Bjorn and I have done several times, where we say, if we were going to get 100 times the results that we've gotten so far, what would we do? And it's just a thought experiment. Well, we probably would do everything differently. And in that idea set, you're always going to find something that will really help you become the best version of yourself that you just didn't consider before because you were operating in this small sphere of beliefs. Also, another good thought experiment for this is put yourself in the shoes of the client and say, what would just make me absolutely stoked to want to come back here as often as humanly possible? And brainstorm that and say, well, of all of these things that could make a client come back and just love being here, never want to leave, always working with me, will pay ungodly amounts of money to get the results that I could offer them. You're going to find things that you don't know how to do. And so then that's a really good start of saying, well, excellence could look like something that I'm not currently, and start leaning into that. Develop yourself further, think outside the box. Like all of those things are really useful and helpful. If you can be proactive in your own role in figuring these things out yourself, then you can start adding just massive pieces of value to the business, to Crystal, to Jeff, to the people that you work for and with. You improve your team around you. This is actually something that my whole career I built off of this idea, is just what would I actually do if I was in charge here to get people the best results that I would want to have if I was a client. Looking through that lens, you can easily come up with what those ideas look like, and it helps you start to define, like, what does that triangle of excellence actually look like? It's so easy to get competitor focused.
Yeah.
It's like, they do this, so we're going to do this a little bit better than them. They do that, so we're going to try to model it. We don't think we can do it as good, but we're at least going to try because it looks like they're making good money doing it, or it looks like they have a lot of influence because of it. So the more you look at other people to define what you do here, the more you're just some derivative of them, actually, because you don't really ever know what they do. You just kind of see it from behind, like from afar, from a distance, unless you've worked there. But even then, you don't really know what they do because you don't understand all the systems or all the things that go into getting that result for a client. So if you can just shut out all the noise and say, like, what's the thing we care about most? We care about people walking out of this place feeling like amazing about themselves, and that's it. We don't care what anyone else does to make that result possible, because everyone else is just, they're like hyenas trying to fight against each other to try to get the results that they think they're getting for their clients, and it's not, none of it's real. We are actually going to focus on clients and getting them ideal results. You'd think this is obvious, but it's really not. Jeff Bezos is one of my favorite people for this. He said the reason Amazon was successful is because we were just more obsessed with getting results for our customers. Everyone else was obsessed with being better than their competitor. We were obsessed with getting results for customers. Does that make sense? Am I saying anything off here?
No.
Okay, Crystal gave me all these talking points, so if anything is wrong, then you can just say, do you know who Loretta Scott King is? Okay, so this is Martin Luther King Jr.'s wife. When Martin Luther King died, Loretta Scott King was asked, why didn't you remarry? And she said, because I knew that anybody that I would remarry would be a downgrade from who he was. And if you look at people who are kind of trend breakers, they truly do something like excellent and great in their field. I like looking at people like Martin Luther King Jr. or John F. Kennedy or Elon Musk, people like this who are like outstanding. They're doing it by choice, and they're doing it because they are willing to think differently, and they're willing to actually chase something that seems impossible. So if you look at that in your own world, you probably will find similar results will happen in your own life outside of just your work. It's like, if I can go chase what I think the ideal, insert whatever role is, looks like, you can start defining that. You can look at it, and you'll, like Sarah and I talk about this a lot. We don't compare ourselves to anyone else. So we're always just talking about what we can do better for us. This is how we operated in our business, is like, what can we actually do better? Imagine a salesman saying, how can I better serve customers? Nobody does this, but that's what we did. We were obsessed about it. And I just thought, if I can be the best at obsessing over helping customers, at the end of the day, that's going to win no matter what. It takes courage to do, you're right. But like I said, what you'll find is it will bleed over into other aspects of your life too. And what you do and learn at work, you can't help but see everything else like that. When it comes to motivations for achieving goals, you know, everyone's here for a different reason, right? Like if we went around the room and asked, there would be all sorts of reasons why you're here, ranging from really wanting to help clients at their highest level to I need a job to create income for myself, to I really want to work with Crystal, to this is just something I do for fun and I really enjoy. Motivations are not good or bad or right or wrong, but they are more or less motivating depending on how deep they are. And you also have to look at results like let's say you have an income goal. You want to make a certain amount of money this year. That result is really just a scoreboard of what's actually going on. So if I obsess over making money, then it's like obsessing over gas in my car. It's just a piece of energy that gets me from a place to another place. So you look underneath that, it's like, well, why do I want to achieve this income goal? Or why do I want to achieve this number of results for my clients? Well, because I really care about them, or because I want a bigger paycheck this month, or there's all sorts of reasons. The deeper you can go, we'll actually do this on our next training if you guys let me come back. It's an exercise that I developed called Striking Gold. And essentially it's the way to find out what your motivations are for the things that you do that are your actual ambitions. So if your ambitions are to be the best at your job, it will help you understand why you want to be the best at your job. If your ambitions are to make money, it will help you understand why you want to make money. If your ambitions are to scale your business, it will help you understand why. But the deeper you go, the more rooted that motivation is in something meaningful. And we can define meaningful. Meaningful means how much does it affect other people outside myself for how long? We all want to do something that's meaningful, but we all don't really recognize what that means. So we tend to just operate on the surface of our motivations, which is why a lot of times they don't last very long. That's not a very specific way to answer your question, but you can help connect the things that you want, ambitious goals, to very deep reasons, it's almost a certainty that you'll achieve the ambitious goals. But the ambitious goal, it won't even be that exciting to make the money, or it will be exciting to help customers or to grow the business or whatever the top goal is, because these ones are so much more meaningful and so much more fueling. So the thing I love and hate about results is they're very harsh judges. It's like a result is just an effect of something that you did. And if you don't get the result, it usually means that there's inputs that were off, or something that was wrong that I missed, or maybe there wasn't enough effort for a consistent amount of time to actually see results that were satisfying enough to keep going. Or maybe I did get results, but they really weren't the ones I was expecting. So I'm like, I'm a little disillusioned by it or something. This idea of, getting these results and then being able to zoom out and say, why do I actually want this? What are the deeper motivations? Usually results are just very on the other side of a little bit more effort and a little bit more tenacity, but there's this barrier that keeps us from them because our reasons aren't as deep as we want them to be, or because we haven't connected our goals to those deeper reasons. In your world, it is impossible to get certain results until your reasons are deep enough, and then you'll say, I'll do whatever it takes, I don't care. And all of a sudden the effort becomes easy. We actually will talk about that a bit later. Ultimately, where we're going to go is from self-awareness, so taking inventory of ourselves, to your actual mission in life and how that crosses over into what you do at work. And then from there, it'll get hyper specific about goals of being the absolute best in your job. And then there's all other stuff after that too, like belief systems, how you think, your focus, things like that. That's all the part of the program that I have built that's really interesting, and it is very profound at how well it gets people results. We won't have enough time to go over it today because you have some clients coming in, but I kind of want to just go through this workbook with you really quick to show you what's going on here and see if you can spend some time thinking about it and just taking inventory of yourself. So this little exercise is meant to help you just take a look at what you offer, who you are, what benefits you get by being here, and try to go more all into your role. So first we're going to go through an identity inventory. This is your roles and your personas. Personas are like the masks that you wear. You can think about your personas as like, oh, I show up this way as a wife, but I show up this way at work. I show up this way for my kids, but I show up this way when nobody that I know is around. And we all know these people who talk or act differently in different roles, different personas. The whole idea of this is to like bring those all into one and say like, who am I actually, and what do I have to offer the people in my life? Number one, your roles and your personas. What hats do you wear? Where do you spend your time? You want to just really think about those things. Number two is like uniqueness. What are the unique talents and abilities I possess that are uniquely mine? One of the ways that you can be the best at what you do is by looking at what do you provide people that no one else could, because no one else is you. Oftentimes we just kind of mimic what we see everyone else doing, and then we never lean into what is uniquely ours. That exercise is meant to help draw that out. And then this third one is called the human endowments. This is a term that the Franklin Covey group coined and did a lot of research on that kind of stemmed from Viktor Frankl during World War II when he was in the concentration camps as a psychiatrist. He really thought through these interesting ideas of like what makes us uniquely human that we don't utilize actually. So there's 4 human endowments that could help us become our best self in all of our roles. It's self-awareness, imagination, conscience, and independent will. So think about our conversation already today. If I become self-aware of things that I have that I'm not using, automatically I'm going to be better at my job. If I can use some imagination and say, think outside the box, automatically I can be better at my job. Same with if I use my conscience. So is this actually what's best for the customer? Is this actually right? Is it actually good? And then if I use my independent will, so like I can take initiative. No one has to tell me that I can't go think about like what might be a better way to treat my expertise in my role. So next page, your role and your reasons. This is where it gets really fun, is like think through of all the things you could be doing right now, why did you choose to work in this space? Why are you in this industry and not something else? And then I want you guys to think about like of all the businesses within this space, why did you choose to work here at Unfiltered? Be really honest. Could it be because it's a bit smaller and not a chain or not a franchise? Could it also be because Crystal's here? Of course, that's probably one of the biggest reasons why. Compensation. You want to think through all the actual logistical reasons why I work here and not somewhere else. And then of all the people you could have chosen to work with, why did you choose to work with Crystal? Then go into the value that you receive. What value do I get by being here? So what's your current role? What pieces of value, perks, and benefits do you receive because of this role? What financial benefits do you have for showing up to your role and performing at baseline? So if you don't actually go make an extra effort, what perks and benefits do you get? 3C, what additional financial value do you receive purely based on performance in your role? So this would be like commissions, bonuses, that sort of thing. How do you earn more or less? How incentivizing are these benefits to you? And be honest about that. Be like, are they actually incentivizing to me or not? Why not do they incentivize you to perform, serve customers at a higher level? D, what additional financial value do you receive purely based on performance in your role? How do you earn more or less? The last one, this is the doozy, okay? So deep breaths if you need to. The value you bring to the table. What value do your clients receive by working with you that they could find somewhere else. It's not a typo. That's a good thing to think through. Could they just go anywhere else and get value? What value do your clients receive by working with you that they could not find somewhere else? And then 2, what value does your team receive by working with you that they could have with any other person? So if you were just replaced by someone in the same position, it was the same for your team. What does that look like? So what's the baseline of the value you give to your team? And then the second is, what value does your team receive by working with you that they could not have if they were working with anyone else? And then it's the same thing for the business. What does the business have with you that they could have with anyone else? What do they have with you that they could not have with anyone else? And then the last is the value to Crystal. Assess the value you add to the owner of the company you work for. How is her life different, better, or less stressful because of you? How does her mission to serve clients get fulfilled because of you? What value do you uniquely provide? We won't have time to go over this in depth. My purpose with this, just so you know, was to say, I found that nobody remembers their compensation or their benefits or their incentives except for the ones that they use on a consistent basis. I would revisit my contract like every month or 2. I would look through it and say, like, am I actually maximizing my contract and giving value to my company that I'm working with? And that's what I would like you guys to do as well, is just think through, is like, if you're gonna be here. And if you already are, and that's the case, which you are, then align yourself with the role and go all into it for the time that you have here. And part of that entails adding value to the people around you. Okay?
We're extremely lucky to have Hayden to be doing this for us. So not just everyone gets this.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I do know one thing that you may not want this though. Okay, so I'll just be open about this. You may not want to be the best at what you do, but I do know one thing is that this is a template to be very excellent at the things you choose to do in life. And I've seen it now many times, and I learned from people who had done something like this previous to me, and I built on top of it, and it will also help you maximize the joy in your life, because you won't be able to help but see all your roles in the same way. I go home and I think all the time about, like, what does Sarah have with me that she could have with anyone else? Am I easily replaceable? That doesn't mean she's going to divorce me and replace me, but am I easily replaceable though? Am I easily replaceable to my friends? Am I easily replaceable to my kids? Am I easily replaceable to the people that I interact with? And that's ultimately what this first thing is about, is just understanding what that looks like for you in your work role. Okay. I will say this is the most boring of the modules that we have, but it is the most meaningful though. It is the most tedious, but it's the most meaningful. It has the highest value.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. This has been okay. Yeah, thanks guys. Thank you.